Soul Wilds. Welcome on back for another episode. I'm Kate.
And I'm Katie.
And we're talking about something I think that's both of our favorite topics. One of our favorite
crystals.
Hey, crystals. And it's going to be a lot of fun. I feel like crystals are the gateway drug into spirituality for most of us girlies and boys. So
some boys.
Some boys. I would say some. Yeah. I wanted to be inclusive, or theys as well.
Should be.
Everybody spent a lot of money on them, but you know, it was worth it because I love them. So we're gonna kind of start off. We know we hit. I forget the episode. It was pretty early on. I know we hit some things about crystals and the difference between a crystal and a rock and all that good stuff. We're just gonna briefly rehash some of that stuff. Talk about our favorite ones, talk about the benefits of some crystals that we've done some research on, and we hope it's interesting, right?
It will be, and informative for sure. I hope this helps people like navigate which ones to pick up.
Yeah, and not to be scared, because you really can't make too many mistakes when it comes to crystals. So, but we'll start. I mean, yeah, there's a couple, but you're not going to like hurt yourself or die or anything. So that's good, you know? So
as long as you're not putting it in places it doesn't belong.
Yeah. I mean, there are some that are water soluble. So like there's some that are definitely not body safe. We can touch on that maybe later.
Listen, but they make some that are like the shape of dildos and stuff. So I feel like it's important to talk about.
In general, that's not a safe practice anyway, but definitely do not get a selenite dildo. Just putting it out there. You'll poison yourself.
A lot of these like stones and stuff are soft and or crack or flake easily.
Porous.
We shouldn't even have them in water, let alone in your body.
And you're gonna poison yourself.
I just felt like I had to go there. I don't know why.
Yeah, straight out the gate. We're cool. We're good though. It's a good thing to know. So now you know. We'll talk about it more. We want to keep our listeners safe. So. Mm-hmm. So to start off, what you may ask, what is a crystal, Kate and Katie? A crystal structure is basically where atoms have a certain organized spatial arrangement. And that arrangement of points, which is usually geometric, think of like a snowflake or the chemical compounds within chemical structures that you may have learned about way, way back in Earth and space or chemistry or whatever, organic chemistry, if you took any of those classes. So it's usually geometric and it's called a lattice. So sorry for all of those who hate geometry. It was not my favorite class. But when a crystal is just sitting by itself, the energy within those lattices or within that grid, we could even say grid because a lot of people maybe have done crystal grids. You make them into shapes, right? If they're just sitting there, nothing's really contacting it for the most part. Everything's at equilibrium, right? In this state, the crystal is just radiating its own energies. Once pressure is applied, i.e., we touch them, we pick them up, we place them on potentially someone in a crystal healing session. The piezoelectric effect, which we'll talk about a little later, separates this energy from the crystal's lattice. So there's a discharge, essentially, and creating an electric charge. This release is what is used in healing. So each crystal vibrates at its own specific frequency because of its makeup when electricity is passed through it. Almost think about different compounds burning different colors if we were to put them into fire. I'm sure we've all done that in chemistry class. So the different chemical makeups create different colors, kind of the similar thing, except this is more energy waves or electromagnetic energy. And we as humans, guess what? We all have our own bioelectromagnetic field or our own vibe or our own aura. So if you've ever had your aura photographed, guess what? My aura is going to look different than Katie's. Different colors, different energy. Sometimes it extends a little bit further, or maybe it's a little bit closer, all of that kind of stuff.
I've never done that. I really want to.
It's so cool. I got mine photographed. I want to get mine photographed again.
Your aura can change over time as well, right?
Yes, because I want to see if it changed, because I was in a really bad place when I got my aura photographed. And it wasn't terrible, but I would love to see it now because so many things have changed in my life. Yeah. So
is it a special camera they use, or like how do they see, like how does that work?
I wish I could tell you right now, but I can't.
I need to know.
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll talk about it for myself. Yeah, I do think you need a specific camera, and I believe she also had a certain tool where we placed our palms on it, and that like read our energy in some way, shape, or form. It was really interesting. Maybe that's something we can put on the list to talk about.
Yeah, or try out for sure. Yeah. And just to kind of go off of some of the things you shared, like I thought when you were talking about the geometric patterns, I was thinking about like the geometric patterns that vibration makes in water.
Yes.
It always looks so cool.
Yes.
And that kind of helps people, or me anyway, visualize what that geometric pattern can look like, because we're not really seeing it with our naked eye, right? No. It takes a lot of like special equipment, I would
take a great microscope or like other tools, or like there was I don't know where I saw it, but they did this experiment where they took tears, so happy tears, sad tears, angry tears, and they froze them, and the different patterns that they formed was like very, very interesting. Yes.
That's so cool.
Because you release different hormones when you cry.
Now I'm going to be like catching my tears in little tissue bottles.
I mean, you should. You should
label it sad.
Peter Pan.
Oh my God. Like, why do you have, no, anyways.
It's interesting that you brought up sound, because crystals also have resonance that can produce sound. And I would love to see that. I mean, we can think about crystal bowls, because different types of crystal bowls sound different. They sound very different. Mm-hmm. And some people are very sensitive to this sort of what I would call subtle energy. So metaphysical energy in general, spirit, that kind of thing is what we're talking about with subtle energy. And so if we remember that they're made up of a certain arrangement spatially, the crystal itself will also vibe with us differently. So I think some people can feel certain crystals. I remember we were talking, I feel like in terms of, you can look at it any which way. You can look at it astrologically. There are certain crystals, chakra system. What are we lacking? Maybe even mineral deficiency. What are we lacking? We might gravitate towards certain things. I think it's very interesting. And we're going to talk about that later. But, that's kind of like a brief little intro chemistry wise.
Yeah, a lot of times crystals though, like there's a little bit of research with crystals in sound therapy, but also when looking and trying to measure like those like communication waves. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if this is real or not, but I think of like that probe that people are talking about where they plug it onto a plant and every plant has a special sound that it like, and I was like, oh my God, I don't know if that's real or not. I need to know more about that. But you know, crystals can be similar in that way. And it's actually reported that crystals resonate at a very slow rate. They consider it 1 to 3 cycles per second.
Wow.
To give you something to compare that to, the human conscious, like our consciousness, the rate of resonation is 13 to 30 cycles of beta brain waves per second while awake. That's while awake. That changes. We all know we have different brain states, like wake states and sleep states, but placing crystals on or near the body allows that interdimensional exchange to take place between the cycles that we're experiencing through human consciousness. But think about too, like your different body parts. So your organs, your blood, your heart, your, an injury versus a non-injury. I mean, we're going to be seeing differences probably, just like you were saying with tears. It's probably the same with our physical body. I mean, we're made of molecules. That's what we are. And there's a lot we don't know or understand about that. I just saw this really fun video that was like, of a comedian talking about how we're made of molecules, this table is made of molecules, or he was talking about a stool.
I just watched
and
this.
we're all and they're all vibrating. Why is it that my hand stops when I put it onto the surface? Why doesn't it go through it? And it's like there's just so much interesting concepts to think about when we're looking at how we all exist and how the things in our life exist in this world. But
yeah.
So the matrix within the crystal structure itself becomes superimposed as an interference pattern. Mm-hmm. That leads to reprogramming of the cells into a state of balance. That's how that exchange occurs between yourself and that crystal. Mm-hmm. So it's not just vibrate meets vibrate, they bounce off of each other, they're leaking into each other. So we use that in our healing to help either balance, activate, slow down. We can even probably talk about that if we have enough time, but there's a lot of different ways we can use crystals depending on the crystal's vibration from their geometric pattern.
I love the way you explained that.
Thank you. It just came to me. It is important to notice there's no actual scientific evidence. When I say scientific, it's like we're thinking about using the scientific method in research, that traditional way of our understanding of how the world works to support the healing properties of crystals. These are mostly inferences. These are mostly case-by-case study. These are things reported by practitioners, by people that are using the crystals. So there's still a lot of research to be done. That doesn't mean scientific evidence of these things won't come up. But at this time, everything we're talking about and the science part of it is so new. It's just starting to be played with
in a traditional scientific way. I feel like we're becoming more curious to be able to prove it instead of just being like, well, that's a bunch of hoo-ha. You know what I mean? That's a bunch of hooey.
Which a lot of people think about. So that's how they look at crystals, like it's just a bunch of bullshit or placebo effect or whatever, which you know what, even if it is a placebo effect, which I don't think it is, but even if it works, who cares?
Yeah, seriously, placebo is extremely effective. I see it in my practice every day. So if you believe you're healing, guess what, a lot of people heal. How is that a bad thing?
And I wanted to talk briefly too before we jump in, because I know, Kate, you want to kind of talk about the properties of our healing crystals and our favorite ones coming up here. But I just want to take a moment to talk about, since we kind of just really got into the energy of these crystals in a general sense, how do we reset, recharge, restructure what's happening with the energy that's being released from the crystals? Energy, resetting the energy in your space, you can use crystals to do that too. It doesn't have to be your physical body. But these crystals also need resetting and some help, right? So we can use sprays, incense, smoke, moonlight, some sunlight, and sometimes water. Every crystal is going to be different, and you need to be aware. Some of these crystals cannot be in the sun, and some of them cannot be put in water. So cleanse your crystals before and after you use them. Clear water with or without salt. Use your intention of clearing them out, strengthening them, whatever it is you're trying to do. And I can tell you, amethyst, citrine, pink topaz, they are sensitive to direct sunlight and will fade if you put them out in the sun. So be mindful of that. It's important to know and understand the crystals that you have to understand the care that they need. Some of them do really well wrapped in silk. You can kind of reset them that way too.
Some of them are sensitive to temperature, like opal. You got to be careful. Know your crystals for sure.
Yeah, definitely. But that's it. That was just my quick note for recharging and things like that. And I'm sure we can get into that deeper if we need to.
So what makes crystals healing, aside from Katie explaining really, really well about how literally it reorganizes atomic structure, which is kind of interesting, but I feel like that makes sense. Why is hugging so effective? What is the average? We need 8 hugs a day to be healthy human
I didn't
beings.
know that.
There's a number, and I think it's like 8.
That makes sense.
Right? And it's like
some people don't like hugs, though.
True. So if you don't like hugs, sorry. But in general, affection, love, whatever. But hugging for sure is a transfer of energy. And it's literally, it sounds kind of funky, but my atoms are coming up against, say, I'm hugging you, your atoms, and hopefully we're both vibing high or whatever you want to call it. We're bringing some positivity. And guess what? That can change our chemistry.
Our interaction with the world around us, not just people, but smell, vision, all the things we talked about with being mindful, is directly connected to your nervous system.
Releases dopamine and oxytocin, which is happy.
Stress response, heart rate, oxygen level.
Circadian rhythm
system, hormones, physical body, physical ailments, aches, pains. Anyways,
we could go on. It's for real. We'll talk a little bit about the properties of healing crystals and what makes that happen. This is taken from my book by Karen Ryan, I believe it's The Healing Power of Crystals or something to that effect. I talked about it a couple podcasts ago. But in it, she quotes The 7 Secrets of Crystal Talismans by Henry M. Mason, and he detailed the specific lattice systems and their powers. So they're called Bravis or Bravice. I may have butchered that, but there are 7 Bravice lattice systems that form the basic structure of all crystals. So first we'll talk about isometric. That is the most basic, structured like a cube. It is useful to support and improve ourselves within and without, keep order, form collaborations with others, and focus on beneficial growth. Examples of that are halite, pyrite, and diamonds, interestingly enough. Tetragonal, shaped like a rectangle, it attracts someone or something to you. Examples: apophyllite, rutile, or vesuvianite. Orthorhombic, it is in the form of a rectangular prism with a rectangular base, helps dispel mental and spiritual issues, and eases life complications. Examples are celestite and topaz, which I love celestite. I have it by my bed because it is helpful with dreams. Hexagonal is a 6-sided lattice structure. It provides direction, purpose, new discoveries, and supports learning and seeking tranquility. Examples of a hexagonal type crystal are aquamarine, ruby, sapphire, tourmaline, or emerald. Trigonal, that belongs to a crystal family that includes hexagonal, but you can imagine like a triangle. The two are often combined in classification, but a great example of trigonal is clear quartz, which I love clear quartz, and clear quartz is an amplifier by nature. Monoclinic, rectangular prism with a parallelogram as its base. If you remember parallelograms from geometry, they're kind of slanted. Functions as a guard that protects our material possessions, as well as from spirits, and shields us from doubt. Examples of a monoclinic is moonstone, malachite, and jade, or other opaque, so you can't see through them, crystals. Turquoise is also very opaque as well, but that is actually considered triclinic. It is the least symmetric, and it has unequal vectors, so it's almost like confusion, right? The more you can kind of keep your enemy or someone you're trying to trick on their toes, the more protection you have, right? It's the serpentine zigzag, when you're running away from someone type thing. It helps protect us from harmful external forces like wars and disease. Examples of that are turquoise, rhodonite, and kyanite. I love kyanite. I have a ton of kyanite, both at my job and in my home. We'll talk a little bit more about minerals, rocks, and gemstones real quick, which Katie touched on beautifully in that episode. Do you remember the episode number so people have reference?
Yeah, it was our 3rd episode, Energy, Part 2.
Oh, yeah. Katie went into this really well as well, but we're just going to rehash a little bit. So if you recall, a crystal is a structure which has a pattern of atoms called a lattice, and a mineral has it in 3 spatial directions. Minerals are formed by geologic processes like volcanic activity. They have a specific and recognizable chemical composition. So we learned about those in chemistry. We learned all about minerals. We need minerals to survive. Examples would be magnetite, barite, gypsum, and halite. Like I said, our bodies need minerals to function properly, and we often get them through vitamins, which are found especially in vegetables. Rocks are an aggregate of minerals, so minerals make up rocks that don't necessarily have a specific chemical composition. They are usually formed on the surface of the earth in a process called the rock cycle, which we're not going to rehash. You can go back to Earth and Space Science for that. A rock has the ability to transform and crystallize into another form, and guess what? That's how crystals are made, because diamonds are compressed, right? So 3 rock classifications are igneous. So those are formed from a molten state when magma hardens as it reaches the Earth's surface, like on a volcano. Examples: granite, obsidian, and basalt. Sedimentary, compressed particles that form layers like a riverbed. So limestone and shale, which can create fossils. Metamorphic are formed when rock undergoes changes from heat, pressure, chemical activity. Examples: marble from limestone, quartz from silica, kyanite from mica, which I thought that was interesting because mica is not safe to handle, but kyanite is, and garnet from shale, interestingly enough. And then finally, a gemstone is a cut and polished mineral like we've seen in our jewelry. So it can be a mineral, crystal, or other valuable material. Examples: amber or pearl. And I think we've all had some degree of that in our lives, whether you're like a huge jewelry girl or guy. So I think crystals can look like anything, like your favorite necklace, earrings. I have crystals that I really like as earrings, and I wear them often.
They can be carved into little trinkets.
Yes. Yeah, so it's really interesting. And then really quickly, we're going to talk about Plato and his belief around crystals and their structure. So the Greek philosopher Plato believed that everything we need to know about Earth and life on it is accessible to us in 5 basic shapes. That's taken from Karen Ryan's book, Healing Crystals. Discover the Therapeutic Power of Crystals, which I should be getting commission from since I push this book so much. The 5 basic shapes are called Platonic solids. So Plato said that everything has these basic shapes: our bodies, DNA, plants, cells, the cosmos, just anything and everything has these shapes. So they are also comprised of lattices, like we talked about, so a specific spatial arrangement, and they represent the 5 elements. So the 3-sided tetrahedron, it has 4 faces, that represents fire. The 4-sided cube, 6 faces, represents earth. 8-sided, well, remember, everyone thought the earth was flat, so 8-sided octahedron, 8 faces representing air. 12-sided dodecahedron, which has 12 faces on it, and it represents the ether. 20-sided icosahedron, which is 20 faces, and that represents water, interestingly enough.
What a mouthful that was.
I know, right? I'm proud of myself. The perfection of these structures are like a cosmic receptacle for divine energy. So because they are so perfect, because they are so symmetrical, the Greeks believed closer to symmetry, the closer that someone was symmetrical, the closer to divine or to beautiful or to God or whomever. Plato said that the dodecahedron, so that represents the ether, was used by the divine source to shape the whole universe. It's interesting because the throat chakra, that element of the throat chakra is ether. The sound of, I believe, the third eye chakra is Om, which is the sound that encompasses all sounds. So we see this crossover of both sound, shape, sometimes color, element in a lot of different cultures, but ether essentially would be representing the throat chakra, because what we speak out into the world creates our reality. And in a lot of cultures or interfaith, I'm thinking of Christianity specifically, but God saw nothing, there was nothingness, and the word was God, and God was the word, and he spoke out, and then there was light. So we have like metaphors and or stories of the voice or the ether being spoken out or being put out into the universe, and all of a sudden now we have life. And then finally, the different shapes, and I'll just like run down these really quick. But pyramids, some people are really drawn to pyramids. I myself am not. I'm not really a pyramid gal, but this shape will transform chaotic mental and psychic energies into logical life force. And there's a ton of really, really big pyramids in Egypt and all around the world. Temples in South and Central America in the shape of a pyramid. And it's because it comes to a point which basically connects you to source.
Is this a pyramid or is this something else?
Let me see it. That is not a pyramid, but if you were to cut it in half, it would be a pyramid.
Yeah. What is this called? I don't know.
I think that would potentially be maybe an octahedron. Look at how many faces are on it, because it's basically
8.
So it's an octahedron. Wow, I was good. I knew that. Whoa, that's kind of creepy. If you are drawn, so Katie has an octahedron. 8 faces represents air.
It's like
Katie's
2 pyramids kind of stacked,
put together.
Yeah, from the base. Yeah.
It's interesting that you're a Gemini.
Yeah, I don't know. It's my only one like that. I like it.
That's so cool. I love that. If you are drawn to pyramids, you might be looking for structure in your life. Then there are obelisks, which are basically a pyramid on top of like a longer rectangle-ish looking structure, essentially. Very popular in home decor, often seen in ancient Egypt. Often they were quarried from miles away and carved with the local history of famed rulers of the area. They are wider at the base, pulling energy up from the earth, with the top in the shape of a pyramid. Symbolism is that it is life-giving in that it draws negativity from the environment and shoots that energy straight up the shaft to be replaced on its journey with positive energy. The top is shaped like a lighthouse, beaming the positive energies out from the tip over the community, or, we'll talk about this a little later, you can actually relay energy depending on the crystal, depending on how you program it, to other obelisks like antenna. So they might have believed that they could communicate with each other with an obelisk. And maybe there was like one obelisk in a town far, far away or in another part of the city or something like that. Then finally, we have crystal balls, palm stones, or spheres. So the round guys, a lot of people think of like crystal ball gazing, also known as scrying, when they see a crystal ball. And scrying was an ancient form of divination using a reflective surface like water or a crystal ball to, see the future, see vision, channel vision, all that kind of stuff. So those types of shapes aren't just for scrying, but can be used for healing and dream work. And it's interestingly enough, I am very drawn to spheres or palm stones or crystal balls. So basically, because of its perfect symmetry, a crystal sphere releases positive energy in all directions to increase your space and self-resonance. The spherical shape helps also to clean out chaotic environments through the promotion of a flawless energy flow so that you can operate efficiently. And I love something that's flawless. That's pretty cool. The sphere is perfect and sacred, and it closely resembles an icosahedron or a dodecahedron because as you add more vertices or as you add more like kind of angles to it, it becomes closer to an actual circle. So it's good. They are good for healing auric leaks. It's a powerful generator and conductor, and it's good for home use due to its feng shui properties, which I don't know a ton about feng shui, but I'll take Karen Ryan's word for it. And then as far as actual talking about rocks, we have geodes and clusters, and basically a geode forms with volcanic activity spewing out lava. It forms a sphere that is cool on the outside. And then within the sphere, it contains various gases that promote the growth of crystals inside, much like amethyst. And guess what? You crack it open, and that's where you get a cluster. So it can basically be of same or different types depending on the gases and how it was formed. But in general, geodes and clusters pick up negative energies. Guess what? Because they have a lot of jagged edges, there's not really a rhyme or reason to how they're being formed, which is perfect for picking up edges. So like, I don't know if you mentioned this, but you can put geodes or a cluster at the entrance of your home. So when people walk in, maybe you can put one on each side of your door. When people walk in, it's like that's kind of scraping along the energy, and it's like keeping it out of your home, and then you have to cleanse it. So those are basically forms, shapes, structure of crystals, and the rundown of all that.
Wow. There's so much to think
Any
about.
questions? Yeah.
Well, I have a couple things that like kind of popped in my mind too as you were talking. So interestingly, a lot of people probably don't know or think about diamonds in the way that we think about crystals because they're so commercialized.
Commodified.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Healers can use diamonds for energy work, and I think a lot of people don't realize that there are some really great properties for healing within diamonds themselves. They're often just known for their timeless beauty.
Yes.
But the Herkimer diamond is an alternative to a diamond. It's actually a type of quartz. It's clear and very hard, almost as hard as a diamond. A Herkimer diamond protects from geopathic stress, balances energetic cellular disorders, and helps to access past life memories. It really activates the third eye and brings some balance into trusting our inner guidance.
Interesting.
Balance to our intuition, having clarity of mind, and is really powerful in meditation. Diamonds themselves are powerful and enlarges and strengthens our energy field in general. So regardless of whatever emotion you're feeling, sad, happy, whatever that might be, it actually intensifies that. It puts power into that and amplifies those emotions into your aura, into your astral and emotional levels, and really can affect your mental health and mental levels. So that's something to keep in mind.
Wow.
And it's just something cool to think about since so many people wear them on their fingers for, you know.
For marriage.
For marriage. I probably wouldn't. I probably would want something different, but
I'm going to get a different stone. I think I'm going to get amethyst, honestly.
Oh yeah, you're going to pick that.
Yeah.
But you talked a little bit too about some of the properties of crystals, and it made me think. So opals have a large water content in them. So if you didn't know that, or you connect with water a lot, other ones that are known to be related to water is moonstones and aquamarine. They're associated with water by name. Yeah, the moonstone's my fucking favorite, man.
Actually, rainbow moonstone, I would say, is my fave in terms of moonstone. Yeah.
Just like this classic herself. I love moonstones. They are also used in parts of the body for breathing or the breath cycle. So that's cool.
I love that.
I know.
Little fun facts.
I know. And you talked about quartz, and you talked about quartz being like one of your favorite stones. And it's pretty interesting. I recently learned, and now I'm on the search or hunt for a clear quartz kind of medallion in a way. Because the Native Americans used clear quartz, and they used clear quartz as healers. Not everyone wore them, but the healers of the Native American tribes would wear a clear quartz jewelry point facing downward at the breastbone. Between the heart chakra and the solar plexus chakra, if you know your chakras.
That's crazy, because I have a necklace like that.
Oh, I have one like that, but it's citrine, not clear quartz. So I don't know.
So interesting.
And it keeps your auric field clear, and it repels negative energy around you. So if you wear that on your breastbone, so that's how old.
And I'm a healer, so that makes so much sense.
I know, it's so cool.
We talked about this too, and the cool thing about clear quartz, and I learned this from someone who's been a huge wealth of knowledge to me and taught me so much, but clear quartz is a natural amplifier. So I use clear quartz a lot when I do crystal grids and things of that nature. But what people don't realize is if your house is built on like a catch of clear quartz or maybe another crystal, and something weird has happened in your house, or you're having weird activity, guess what? That crystal is like amplifying whatever energies are around, which I feel like a lot of people don't realize. And there's probably a lot of that, I think, around where I live, because I know quite a few people of having like paranormal experience and things of that nature, if we're to believe in that. So
yeah, definitely. I mean, and clear quartz, with it being, like you said, kind of a natural enhancer, it's one of the few stones that's constantly passing light through it.
Yes.
And it's bending at 90 degrees when the light goes through it. As it exits the crystal, it allows for the full spectrum of light.
Yeah.
So that
Floyd.
yeah, I mean, that's, I mean, that's an important aspect to quartz.
Yes.
I mean, that's why it can be sort of that go-to
yes
amplifier, like you said. So, and if you pair quartz with topaz together, it enhances activation, especially with your throat chakra.
That makes so much sense. Yes, Katie said that beautifully. Certain crystals enhance one another. If you pair quartz, that is because amethyst is formed from quartz. So clear quartz and amethyst go together. Wonderful. That's an example of a beautiful pairing. Like we said, turquoise and I think you had said another pairing maybe of turquoise before. But it's just interesting. Or maybe I had listed that a long time ago, and now I forget what it is. But pairing turquoise, I think maybe with aquamarine is really, yes, turquoise and aquamarine are great for helping unblock the throat chakra. So now you just have two examples if you're having some throat chakra stuff.
Yeah. And turquoise is actually not a crystal. Turquoise is a stone. It's considered a stone, but it can be used for healing properties as well. Yeah. It's what they call amorphous in nature, if you're a rock person. But turquoise, now you got me on this kick with Native American history. Native American peoples combined turquoise with silver for jewelry. We see a lot of that today.
Yes, we do.
Which they believed increased lunar energies. So their connection with the moon and the energies coming from the moon. And when combined with gold, it helped amplify, it helped connect, it helped all of those great healing properties using solar energies. So the silver was representative of moon, the gold representative of sun, and that's how they combined their metals with their turquoise.
I didn't know that silver is actually psychically protective. I read that somewhere as we were doing research for this, and I was like, that makes sense, because for years, and even still today, that's the only thing that I wore.
So.
And werewolves, but that's the only metal I would wear was silver, and now I'm like, well, that makes sense.
Yeah,
I needed it, right? And now I'm definitely back more on a gold kick. But yes, gold is amplifying. It is. Look at me. Yeah.
Another cool thing to think about with the Native American history too, a lot of the lands that they lived on, the earth had deposits of uranium, and uranium can create long-term exposure skin radiation symptoms from that. So Native Americans used turquoise to protect themselves from that radiation from those deposits of uranium within the land that they lived, and because they were they were outside all the time. Period.
Yes.
So
and opaque. Opaque and amorphous or triclinic, which is turquoise considered, doesn't have a set spatial organization, is absorption. They absorb, they protect you, which is so interesting.
It all comes together, man.
Just around the connections.
Well, we talked about shapes. I want to mention really quick, size does not matter for healing properties.
In this
something to think about, right? It's typically advised using precious gemstones is best for calming and activating the chakra system or your life force energy flow within your body. Less precious stones are better for balancing and harmonizing energy and can be either tumbled or polished. Those are the kinds we usually see at the stores, are tumbled or polished. Some of the more natural gemstones are usually a little bit larger and are very expensive.
They are.
On what it is, of course, but yeah, so cut big, cut small, however many carats it might be, because some of these crystals, we're looking at gemstones like emeralds and topaz, diamonds, we're looking at carats there. Whether they're polished, raw, or natural, they're all equally effective as the other. You have to go with what you're drawn to and what your purpose of use is. It might be, if you're using it as a healer, it might be more comfortable for your clients if they are polished and tumbled, if they're setting on your body, rather than having a rough stone that's placed on your throat. It might be. So just thinking about comfort with that. And the shape is thought to be contributed to how one person may receive the energy, but the energy vibration itself remains the same. So like you said, Kate, and you did a great job explaining the way that it interacts with the energy that it's pulling in or putting out is different depending on those points and the structure and how that energy is released or absorbed. But the same properties still exist. So I can get the same exact gemstone in two different shapes, and those properties, that those benefits that we're talking about from those stones are going to be the same, but how we use them might be different. Semi-precious gemstones give a higher quality of healing vibration than that of a common polished tumbled stone. So the quality of what's happening, I don't know what quality really means here, but it is something that I read from my book. So most of my information is from Crystal Energy with Mary Lambert and the Chakra Bible with Patricia Mercier. That's where I got my information.
I think the purity of it, because you have to think there may be other deposits within the actual stone, because that's where we get rainbow moonstone. There's deposits of other minerals, there's a different chemical makeup there. So the more pure it is, the more of whatever that crystal is giving you, you're getting essentially more of it, right? So that's, I think, where the quality, I guess, of energy is coming from when we talk about that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Speaking of color, we're looking at if we look at being attracted to certain stones based on color, that's good. Sometimes it's good to go into the store. I mean, that's what I feel like most of society is doing right now that's into crystals. Exactly. They walk in and they're like, I like how this looks, and they buy it. Although mineralogists will affirm that there are many reasons for a stone to appear colored, we can generally assume that its color is a reflection of the mineral content within its structure. We see that with stones that are mixed with other types of minerals that we can see really well, like iron.
Yep.
Is iron considered a mineral or an element? I know it's
it is a mineral and it's an element. Yeah.
This is where I start to get tricked, because I don't know that science part as much as I did when I had to know it in high school, we
all just knew it because we had to. Let's face it.
Yeah, I mean, and so a lot of stones might have a mixture of some of those common elements or minerals, like iron is one that comes to my mind. Pyrite, that can be something that's part of like crystal formation too that I've seen. I'm sure there are many others.
Yeah, because I mean, if you look at golden healer, that's literally clear quartz with iron deposits, correct? That's what gives it kind of like the golden hue mixed in.
Yeah. So looking at how the light passes through its crystalline matrix is really how we're determining, the color. This color is perceived as a vibrational message by our subtle color awareness at the deepest cellular level. Another mouthful. We got a lot of hard words in this episode, but when we're talking about vibrational messages, we're talking about the structure that we see and interpret, like snowflakes, like those tears Kate talked about, like we see with vibration in water. There are vibrational messages there. Our subtle color awareness, that's just our human nature and how we categorize, how we view color in this world. And at our deepest cellular level, how does this color interact with us? There's a lot of psychology research on certain colors giving off different feelings, and
the chakra system has colors. Like
the thing about picking a paint color. When we think about picking a paint color for our office space, what kind of service are we providing? What kind of message are we trying to relay? That color alone says a lot. What kind of vibes do we want in the
what vibe do we want? Yeah. Exactly.
And we go with the color, and sometimes it is more neutral, and that's good, because then we have expression through color and shapes and sizes of the things we put in that environment. So the color can say a lot of things, and this special message enables the release and rebalancing of the whole body.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to laugh because I was laughing at you, but the color thing just got me thinking about The Devil Wears Prada, where she just like goes, Miranda goes into her like monologue to Andy about, oh, you think you chose that color, you know what I mean? And it was,
I can't remember that part. I'm mad at myself right now.
And she's like, when actually, so you think you made a decision on your own, and when actually it was picked by the very people in this room. And Emily Blunt's character is just like looking at her, you know, like, you idiot.
Oh my God.
But it's true. It's true. Like, color says a lot. I don't care what nobody says. I feel like a lot of times I was very attracted to the color. People may make fun of me, but I feel like when I first started on this journey, crystals, like I said, was my first thing. And I, for the probably a good while, I really gravitated towards blue crystals.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was some of the development of my throat chakra. I was finally starting to speak out and be me and speak the truth and not be afraid, you know, to say who I was, and on many different fronts. So it's just interesting to look back at your journey sometimes and be like, oh, wow, that actually makes a lot of sense. But we will now dive into the healing properties of crystals on top of the color, which also color, like Katie said, color gives us properties and it can be healing when we look at certain colors. There are actual physical properties that crystals have that give them the ability. I had mentioned earlier in the podcast of the piezoelectric charge. So that is the ability of a crystal to convert pressure into electrical charge. So that is something that gives crystals a healing nature. Resonant oscillator or frequency regulator. So what that means is crystals have the ability to maintain a sound or a wave of energy at a precise frequency. Crystals have a very slow rate, especially when we measure them up against, say, our frequency, our brain's ability to oscillate. A healing crystal can maintain a specific frequency or tone at a consistent vibration. When placed next to an erratic energy signal, the crystal can actually regulate it. Crystals have programmable memory, the ability to store and retrieve information and to repeat a set of instructions. They have polarity, the ability to hold positive, negative, and neutral electrical frequencies. When you touch a crystal, these frequencies are activated. They can function as electrical batteries. That is the ability to store a positive or negative charge within the crystal. The crystal can discharge this according to the thought patterns of a crystal holder. It's also why it's very important to cleanse your crystals, because if you're having some bad days and you're around your crystals are holding them to help you through, they can store that. We talked about this with clear quartz. They have the ability to amplify energy. So that's the ability to take a pattern of energy and increase its charge into a more intense and coherent energy. Crystals can amplify programming as well as energy from other sources like other crystals. Broadcast, we talked about that with obelisks. That is the ability to send out energy patterns or information to be received by others. Mainly, we're talking about other crystals and or people. That's how distance healing works. We've talked about distance healing maybe with Reiki, and obviously a lot of people, myself included, are skeptical. I remember getting my attunements for my Reiki master training, and the person that I learned from was Lisa Powers, and she does distant Reiki attunements, and I was like, there's just no way that, like, I'm going to sign up for a time and this woman's going to tune into my energy 3,000 miles away in LA or however many miles that is, and I'm going to feel something. And man, I tell you, I saw colors and I knew she was there. I knew her energy was accessing mine, and I was like, what in the world? Because I have a very skeptical mind. I was like, this is some bullshit. Like,
right? See, I told you that was me.
I get it. I'm like more open, but like I was like, Lisa Powers, what the hell?
We still surprise ourselves today, though.
My gosh. I have a very logical mind. I like second guess it. Katie and I and our friend group have a saying, I could be crazy, but you know?
Yeah, it might be crazy, but I mean
I think that's a good way to like walk around the world, is to like kind of question things, even your own patterns, your own thoughts, all that kind of stuff. Crystals obviously have the ability to penetrate. So that's the ability to transmit energy through any substance. We talked about that when crystals are placed on the body, rearrangement of the spatial arrangement of our atoms, potentially into a more coherent, a more healing pattern, a more healing way of communicating with one another. Crystals can duplicate energy, which is discharging an energy pattern that is inherited as an exact copy by another similar energy source. We talked about that with water, tears, or another crystal. And then finally, they are conductors. We know about that, how metal is a conductor. So that's the ability to receive energy through itself without altering the energy pattern or program, much like a wire and electricity. So they have a lot of different properties that seem, to me, it bends my mind a little bit. Like, I'm like, crystals can do all of that. But I've come through the years, I've come to be like, yeah, crystals can do all of that, because I've had experiences with crystals for sure that I'm like, whoa,
yeah,
that's intense, right?
Talking about how they can affect the other things around it. One question that has come up for me, and I think that was a good time to ask you, can crystals become confused? So as you can see, I keep some of my crystals in like a little dish all together.
Yeah.
And I don't have them separated in any specific way other than like size based off of the dish that I have. But so when they're in a bowl like that together, non-intentionally, can they become mixed, confused, dull? For what if that happens for long periods of time?
I do think, like we've talked about, there's some crystals you shouldn't pair, really. They just don't really complement one another. And by extension of like everything we just discussed, it's like if they can arrange, or like if they can smooth out frequency, or they can transmit energy, especially for not maintenancing crystals, I would imagine that they could. I don't know necessarily if I would say, not that it's wrong, I don't know that I'd think of it as being confused. I would think of it almost as negating one another, or not like working well together.
Could that weaken it over time? Like I'm thinking about like if you kept like two magnets next to each other that didn't get along, and like eventually could that, I don't know, would that even lessen with a magnet? I don't know. I'm just going on this whole journey now thinking about this.
Well, sometimes crystals break without like dropping them.
Oh, really?
Without, yeah, like
if that were to happen, I would be scared.
Well, the old wives' tale, or like the lore behind that, is the crystal has protected you from maybe a big hit. It served its purpose, and it breaks. And I've heard of people where that happens.
Oh my. I'm just looking at them now.
Now you're looking at I'm looking at my sodalite obelisk. Don't ever break, because I love you so much.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
That makes sense, though.
Yeah. But then again, like, we have to also think of like mundane reasons. Like, are we exposing something to sunlight and it shouldn't be exposed to sunlight? Are we like abusing our crystals in terms of dropping them a lot? You know what I mean? Or like, you know, I don't know. Are we putting them in substances they probably shouldn't be, which will naturally weaken their structure and make them prone to break? Because you can do that with jewelry as well. Like wearing opal in the cold, not a good idea. It will crack. Some crystals are not meant to be as rings because they're so soft. So if you hit them, you're probably going to chip. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think you have to think of it that way too. That's a good question. Maybe just mix up all your tumbled stones and...
Yeah, I'm gonna have.
Because I have a bowl like that too, of like my like, it's like my island of misfit toy bowl of crystals that I don't really use a lot, but I like them. I don't want to get rid of them.
I don't have that many, but I like to keep them together.
Yeah. Well, you like to keep them together, so that's okay. Huh. Yeah. We're going to go over the 5 master healers that we talked about in that first episode with our crystals. We'll start with clear quartz. So I had said clear quartz is known as the universal healer. She's got a wide breadth. She's got a spectrum of things she can do. She does it all. She's like Barbie. She can be anything, do anything, go anywhere. It is the basic building block of all crystals. It is.
What a comparison. I'm just processing.
I know. She is. Clear quartz just can What can't clear quartz do? That's the thing. It's an amplifier. It is part of the hexagonal lattice system. So, like I said, amplifier, generator, conductor. It is extremely opening and can easily communicate with other crystals. So she might be even telling your secrets. You never know. But amethyst is another
That
top
bitch.
hitter. That bitch. Screw you, clear quartz. You're out. I'm getting rid of all of you.
Oh my god.
I don't trust her. Amethyst, known as the master transformer. Amethyst is my birthstone. I'm a February baby. Pisces. Someone once told me that I am amethyst, and there's like, I just am. I guess I'm amethyst, so I was like, that kind of makes sense. But it's a master transformer. I push people, you know. If you could choose but one crystal, this is from Karen Ryan's book, amethyst is it. She's it. A major transformational crystal, an aura purifier. It takes lower dysfunctional vibrations and clears them by transmuting them to a higher vibrational level. It is very protective and acts as a filter, heals all things at all times, interestingly enough. Rose quartz, and you may find like these may be stones that could be, I feel like Five Below sometimes sells, like, I don't know if they're actually real, but like little crystal packets, and I feel like you would find for sure clear quartz and amethyst and rose quartz, which is next. Those would be ones you would definitely find in like a starter crystal packet.
Yeah.
But
well, amethyst quartz, real quick, can help balance emotions, aid headaches, protects, promotes spirituality, enhances your visualizations. It promotes love. So it can do, I mean, she's all over the board.
She's a runner. She's a track star, man. You know, she's doing it all. Rose quartz, often known as the love stone. Definitely when we think of romance and love, I do at least, I think of rose quartz. I'm like, what a beauty. Very Venusian, very lovely.
See, rose quartz to me is like the Barbie. I know
she is. I
know the clear quartz for you, but for me, it's the rose quartz. Like,
she
does it all for me. She can go anywhere.
I love that. What can't rose quartz do? That's for sure.
We could just say quartz in general at this point.
I mean, and think about it. Yeah, they like amethyst is technically quartz, obviously rose quartz, and then clear quartz. But rose quartz, Rosie's the heart chakra opener. She leads to compassion to all centers of the body. Powerful healing. It's a powerful healing crystal. It bestows divine gifts. I think of Aphrodite. The wearer will be aligned with gentle energy that can smooth over tough emotional wounds, which is beautiful.
She gives energy too. She gives good vibrations.
She's giving, like, it's giving rose quartz.
Yes, like loving vibrations.
Yes.
For sure. She does a lot of things. She can be used as alternatives for a lot of things too. Like you said, emotionally, healing with emotional disturbances. It can also be used just like celestite can for healing ear pain or ear aches.
Love that.
Which I feel like, I don't know, based off of our Reiki session, maybe. we had some
I have celestite next to my bed.
Oh, good. So there you go.
She might be slacking. I don't know, because I got ear issues sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And it can generally be used too with rose oils.
Ooh, I love a rose oil.
Yeah, if you get into like the different oil tinctures and things like that.
I love a rose oil.
Crystal massage. It's also something that is used a lot with rose oil for crystal massages if you ever do a crystal massage.
Yeah. I want to try making rose oil sometime. I've made rose water or like a rose tea. Divine. You can just feel the love radiating off of that stuff. The next one is turquoise, which we talked about at length. That one makes sense with what Katie was saying, because turquoise is known as personal protector. So it is the protector of the physical body. It aligns all subtle bodies. So you could say chakra systems, meridians, energy centers when we talk about subtle bodies, and works with the meridians to unlock and promote flow of chi. or Qi, best known as, and Qi or Qi for people who aren't familiar with Eastern approach to medicine, is life force energy essentially. And the meridians are like, think of them like a river or a brook traveling through our bodies. So the flow needs to be nice and smooth, but sometimes our Qi can be blocked. Our meridians can be blocked. So acupuncture, Reiki, all of that kind of stuff works to open up our meridians so that we experience homeostasis and equilibrium and ultimately better health.
Yeah, turquoise can help aid communication.
Yes, but
treats infections, boosts your immune system. It's a really good stone. I think I might have mentioned this in another podcast, a really good stone to use for some of those upper respiratory issues that might be popping up for people. So it helps aid those kinds of infections, stimulates your immune system, boosts your immune system, and helps your immune system work more efficiently.
Which is why they work.
Really cool.
Protected them from uranium. Jeez. But yes, it is, like Katie said, stone of communication. It works enthusiastically with the throat chakra. It supports expression of creativity through speech, music, arts, crafts, and construction. Supports career ambitions, power of leadership, and protects during travel / change in locations and job changes. So if you're moving, if you're going for a job interview, especially in another city or another town, maybe take some turquoise, have some in your car.
Wear jewelry.
Or wear your jewelry. Wear that silver and turquoise moment of jewelry. Smoky quartz, love smoky quartz as well. As Karen said, it was the spiritual warrior, which I'm just like seeing this like big, like strong person. Known for intensity, for it's an absorber, so it absorbs and dissolves negativity. It can also neutralize and transmute energy as well, but it's mostly well known for absorbing the negative energy into its crystalline structure. Larger pieces tend to amplify negative emotions, so make sure to cleanse often, which I didn't realize. And I have a huge honkin' piece of smoky quartz. It's one of my favorite. It's a double-ended terminated kind of wand looking, but she thick. I didn't realize that you needed to, she thick. I didn't realize that you needed to cleanse as often. And I was like, wow, that makes a lot of sense by what was occurring. If you need protection from gossip or bullying, keep this crystal near you. I have it at work as well. Highly grounding and also carries a lot of light in its structure. Provides a field of confinement for emotional issues, and it can soothe a panic attack, which I didn't realize. Interesting, huh?
That is interesting. Some other things that I've read about smoky quartz, I know it's if you want a grounding stone, smoky quartz is one of a handful it's just a very grounding stone.
He's a winner.
It grounds, it protects. Yeah. It also ignites sex drive.
Well,
it also increases your sex drive.
I mean,
it also
I won't say
enhances your sex drive.
I won't say no.
So if you need a little assistance in that department,
a little more gas in the tank, eh? Yeah, carnelian's also great for that. Carnelian is very fiery, so be careful if you have that in your bedroom, because it'll light it on fire. Oh my gosh. And we'll talk about this a little bit more when Katie does some gratitude, but ultimately crystals are of the earth, and the earth is incredibly grounding, and it generates ions. Mainly we say negative ions, especially when we talk about grounding, or is it called earthing or something? It's called, I forget, when you go out in your bare feet. I mean, you could just say you go out in your bare feet, and that's how you can really connect to the earth and ground. But also electromagnetic energy. And obviously earth is one element of the alchemical quad: earth, water, air, and fire. So because crystals are generally high vibrational or help negate low vibrational energy, they are perfect to use when using in meditation to clear our mind, heal our thought processes, or soothe any pain or issues our bodies are experiencing. And it makes sense. They're of the earth, so it would make sense that they have properties that we just described from the earth. And I really love, personally, I really have started to meditate with crystals. A good friend of mine was like, I had to learn that I am the crystal. And I'm like, damn, that's really true. That's ultimately what we're supposed to be, that we are like adopting properties of the crystal to make it work for us. Because it also helps in my mindset when I'm thinking of, okay, this crystal is already doing something for me, but what do I need to maybe work on in terms of myself to make this situation that I'm facing better, to amplify how this crystal is actually working for me, and then carry that through in my day-to-day life. So a really great way to get to know your crystals as well is to pick one, right? Pick one out, maybe one that you particularly already connect with, to start and sit with it. Start by examining the outer part of the crystal with touch. Notice any lines or divots with your eyes and your hands. So using that tactile sense to feel it, to kind of focus your energy on that. And then you can proceed to even gaze into the crystal. Notice its internal structures. Does it have any rainbows? Does it have any windows? Does it have any changes of texture within the actual crystalline structure? And that's mindfulness. We talked about that our last episode. That's meditation. And it gets your mind in a state of just being present. And crystals are just so cool. They can actually change the vibration of spaces, people, other items around just merely by their properties, which I think is so interesting. And I think it's just a really easy way to kind of dip your toe into a bunch of different things that we've been talking about on our podcast. So
yeah, you can use it as a focus point in your meditation also. Yeah, like instead of a candlelight or something.
Yeah, use a crystal that you like the way it looks. Crystals can also repattern human energy patterns. So an example of this, we touched on it a little bit in the beginning, but the Japanese researcher Masaru Emoto experimented with the crystallization of water. And basically what he found is that water has consciousness, like Olaf in Frozen. Water has memory. But you can kind of do a similar Yes.
Actually, what?
Yeah. So you can do your own experiment.
Did I just drink a glass of memory? What?
Probably.
You have to explain this more. I'm a little bit flabbergasted at the moment. I'm just like...
Yeah. Yes. So you can do your own experiment that's similar. Have 3 glasses of water. Speak kind words into one, mean harsh words into another, and then just nothing into the second. I would do it over the course of maybe a couple days, maybe a week. Okay. Cover them up after you're done. You could put like saran wrap or whatever over them, and you just do it each day. Then you take those glasses, or maybe like a freezer safe container, and you freeze the water. And then you can take them out and examine the structure. Obviously, he did this under a microscope. You can even just let the glasses sit out and see what happens to the water. Does it mold over quicker in one glass than another? Then you have the control where like nothing occurred, and they all need to be in the same environment. And what he found was that the negativity really affected the structure in terms of it being more jagged, being more sharp, being more kind of intimidating looking, whereas the kind words glass water had more rounded, beautiful, softer edges and patterns. And then the control essentially was as expected in terms of crystalline structure.
I don't know about this,
really
girl.
wasn't. You don't know about this?
I don't know. Like, so obviously you'd have to speak like into the water, because wouldn't those vibrations go to the glass next to it anyways from your voice?
That's why you have to keep them like apart. You do one at a time, and you could probably even take them to another room and do it. There's a million different ways to like take out other erroneous.
Yeah. You know how I am. I'm just like, if I place it in the freezer battered. I'm thinking about all of the extraneous variables that could have created the differences that were unrelated to the voice. I'm just like,
Yeah, I mean, but why would placement in
I don't
Freezer
know,
matter?
girl. I'm just in debunk mode. Like,
That's okay. I mean, like, people label this as like pseudoscience, however you want to call it, pseudoscience technically, quackery, hogwash, malarkey. But I mean, let's face it, we are how much of a percentage of water? 70% or up.
Yeah.
Humans are made up of water. And you talk shit to someone on and off throughout their actual lives, guess what? That person is probably, or there's a parent that has undiagnosed mental illness and they are cruel to that child. They don't nurture that child. Guess what? That child is more likely to have autoimmune disorder, disease in general, chronic disease, chronic pain, likelihood of having increased mental health. So I think the way we talk to people, I think it's just an example
and to ourselves.
of that. Yes. It actually affects molecular structure.
I need more research. I'm so curious and intrigued.
You do it, girl. Yeah.
Like, I'm intrigued.
Yeah. Molecules, energy matters. Being kind to you. That's why I get a little upset when people talk a lot of crap about themselves, because I used to be one of those people. Guess what? I felt like shit.
When you did Reiki on me, were you like, girl, be nice?
Yeah, be nice to yourself. What the words you're saying to yourself affect your molecular structure. If we're going to believe that crystals can affect your molecular structure, why is it so crazy that our words, because words create chemical reactions. If I look at you and say, Katie, you look ugly today, every day, that would be rough, wouldn't it? It wouldn't feel very nice.
I would probably start to believe it. Yeah.
Or you'd feel anxious knowing that I was coming to talk to you. But if every time you saw me, I'd be like, oh my gosh, you look so gorgeous today. That shirt you're wearing brings out the color of your eyes. So amazing. And just being in your presence makes me so happy. I just can't wait to be around you every day, Katie.
Compliments like that make me uncomfortable. What does that say?
You smiled, though. When I told you looked ugly, the look you were giving me wasn't great. But you're smiling right now. Yeah, that might
it still doesn't feel good, though. I don't know. Yeah, I struggle with it. Yeah,
maybe work on that.
I am working on that.
You are working on that. You are working on that. I like to use humor. I'm not making fun of you, though. But I mean, this can apply to other things, likewise when the earth is untouched or loved by its inhabitants, much like our ancestors, those of us who have indigenous ancestry, right, which all of us do in some region of the world. That energy is also within the structures that are formed by the earth. Guess what? Crystals. Furthermore, it can apply to your workings with moon water, your intentions when you're trying to manifest, your intentions when you're trying to put things out into the world and see them reflected into your reality, using the structure of platonic solids and all those concepts we talked about. It makes sense how crystals can be used for healing. I mean, the ones that are safe, people put them in their water, and maybe it's placebo, but they say they feel better, right?
You can buy cool like jars and cups now that have that infused in them. I have one. Yeah.
Yeah. It's really interesting.
It's
and it
amethyst,
just goes.
So,
I mean, she's a runner, she's a track star. But I mean, that goes back to us talking about metaphysical properties and subtle energy. And we talked about the clairs. I'm not going to get into them at length like we did, but this is another form of you being able to use your clair abilities to maybe suss out what is right for you or to help other people. So subtle energy, we mentioned it, is a different form of energy that conventional instruments really can't measure, really can't detect. We just haven't made one that's super efficient at measuring aura, chi, chakras, biofields, life force, spirit, however you want to freaking call it. But we've had experiences with it. Does that mean that it's not real? I don't think so. I think it's very real. Like you said, we just haven't made a tool that everyone can agree on that it works, and there's a scientific method that it follows so that we can reproduce it over and over again. So remember, like when we are feeling all of that, the spatial arrangement, the atoms within the crystal or whatever we're looking at totally play a role in how we're going to sense whatever energy it's putting out. We're really working on expanding our knowledge science is trying to catch up, like we said. Some people tend to be more sensitive to subtle energy. Those are our mediums, our psychics, maybe our healers as well, maybe neurodivergence. I have a theory about neurodivergence just actually being another way that we are experiencing energy, we're experiencing the world, and some of those people are extremely sensitive, right? But maybe they can't vocalize it just because their neurodivergence makes that hard. So we have to find other ways to maybe communicate.
That makes me think of a good book, Neurotribes. I'm trying to see if I can find it so I can tell you who the author is. I should know this.
Very cool. Look it up. We'll post it in our link section.
Yeah.
For sure.
Absolutely.
It's good to try to understand, like, other people don't experience the world the same as I will. And I think there's beauty in that. There's beauty in, like, learning from other people. Oh, there it is.
I found it. Oh, there it is. Sorry, I am a jukebox.
Okay.
I always think of music. New York Times bestseller. Hey. Neurotribes, The Legacy of Autism and the Future of Neurodiversity.
Yeah.
It's by Steve Silberman. Forwarded by Oliver Sacks. But
interesting.
I haven't read the whole thing, but that's not lack of interest. That's time.
Yeah.
But 10 out of 10. It is a lot of people that I know in the behavior analysis world also really love this book. So you were talking about neurodiversity.
I love that.
Like, yes, girl.
No, I love that. I love that we have resources that people can look into, and that maybe this sparks someone's curiosity, or maybe they're learning some things about themselves right now. You know what I mean?
True. Yeah.
But another way to take in the energy, especially with crystals, is the four main clairs and the other ones that we talked about. So the clairaudience, the claircognizance, the clairsentience, and the clairvoyance. So remember, clairaudience is clear hearing. It can sound like a voice in your head. That voice should never be harsh or malicious. That will differentiate it from other psychological issues like severe hormone imbalance, mineral deficiency, mental health. The tone is always clear and calm. Sometimes it's your voice. You can make that stronger by working with other intuitives, keeping a log, especially of the signs that you hear or the things that you hear. Then we have clairvoyance, clear seeing. Usually messages come in as an image or a scene in your mind. You can actually see it in the physical world, like aura. You can make it stronger by noticing those images that come to mind. Trust the process. His abilities can grow over time, and record them and what you kind of divine that they mean as time goes on. Clairsentience is clear feeling. Messages come through as feeling. Most common of the big four can be like a gut feeling, prickling on your arms or neck, reading the room, reading the emotions of others, maybe some empathy mixed into there. Whenever you get a strong intuitive feeling, write it down so you can recognize it and see the patterns. And then finally, claircognizance, clear knowing. It's an immediate download, like we just know, I know the answer. If you're feeling stuck or stumped, you can work on grounding and ask your higher self or inner knowing about the problem at hand. I feel like we generally have more information. And even to say, if all of these are just pattern recognition, some people are just better at pattern recognition. If there are skeptics out there about the clairs, I mean, psychologically, I feel like we could explain them, but then there's aspects of them that you just can't explain. Like, how would I know certain things about you having never met you in my life, and knowing names or places or whatever. But I think getting to know yourself and trusting the process, another thing that people may feel with crystals, like Katie probably would feel this, is the clairtangency or the psychometry, where like touching the crystal immediately gives you a feeling.
Mm-hmm. You know, I don't even have to physically touch it. I just hover.
Yeah.
But that's how I pick my crystals when I do like meditation or crystal gridding. I try to remove my logical mind, what I know about the crystals, and I pick them based off of what I feel like I need based off of my input from my hands. Yeah.
Mine's more claircognizance or clairsentience for sure. I know that that's the one that I need, and I can't explain why. My eye just goes to it, and that's it. So, yeah. So those are some rundowns of how you can use those extrasensory things to guide you in terms of maybe what crystal might be right for you. It doesn't have to make sense to anyone else. It just needs to make sense to you, right? So I think
I'm still thinking about that Japanese researcher. I went off on like this whole tangent while you were talking, and I had to actively bring myself back to the conversation because I'm like, oh my gosh, like, does the like memory of the water change depending on what I'm doing or saying when I'm filling my water container Brita in my fridge before I put it away? And then when I drink it, does it mix with what's happening in my stomach? And then does it change? And then can you look at someone's urine and see like what's going on inside based off of this is just where my head just went, by the way. This is like
sounds about right.
It was a whole rabbit hole. This is what happens to me, and this is why I can't.
Classic Gemini sun.
Is it? Yeah. Oh my god!
This is why I can't sleep sometimes. You're gonna wake up and be like, water has memory.
This happens all the time though, with like random things. Like
that's hilarious.
One day I just couldn't stop thinking about how like we don't think about where the water goes after we flush a toilet or it goes down a drain. We don't think about that.
Yeah.
But we fucking should think about that.
I guess we should.
We should be thinking about that.
I mean,
and then one time I was up, I was like, it's winter time and it was so quiet outside. And I was like, where do crickets go in the winter? Because I don't hear them. And then I went on a whole research rabbit hole of like what happens to crickets in the wintertime because they always come back. So like they don't like, there's not like this huge like group of crickets going south like for the winter. Like
they go underground?
Yeah. So they leg their eggs and the eggs have some type of filming that protects them from the elements. So the new ones are born in the spring, but they die.
Oh, well, that's depressing.
But I was like,
thanks for bringing that up, Katie.
That's not depressing. It's a circle of life.
That's sad. Just anyway, let's get back to Crystal.
It's a cricket. I don't know.
I'm over you right now.
Yeah, and I am so sensitive with animals and bugs. I really am.
Yeah,
I'm just
could have fooled me, Katie. I'm glad I'm not a cricket.
I'm not being serious.
You've been like, whatever.
Oh my god,
I'm gonna die anyway.
But obviously, I had that thought because I had that concern. Okay, I was like worried if they were warm at night. Like I needed to figure it out.
I can honestly say I do not think about that type of stuff for sure.
I don't know funny. Why.
I think about other things. But
yeah, well, the less stressed out I am, the less I have going on in my life, like the more I think about stuff like that, which is kind of
nice. And then you like
but
stress yourself out by thinking about that kind of stuff.
Sometimes if I can't find the answer.
That's true.
Yeah. But Google does me good.
Thirst for knowledge.
I have that incessantly. Yeah. Is that the word I
think
want?
That's a good thing. It helps. It like makes life really interesting.
Yeah, I guess so. My grandma always said, I grab life with both hands. Yep.
I thought you were going to go somewhere else with that,
crystals.
But I'm glad we really went there. Yes, back to crystals.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to crystals. Really quick. Before we jump into, because I know Kate and I want to briefly kind of go over some, like how to pick your crystals. But a fun fact about crystals in history. So in Native American traditions, rocks are regarded as Mother Earth's bones, rivers as her lymphatic system, oil as her blood, vegetation as her hair, the surface as her skin, and crystals as frozen light, the endocrine glands of her body.
That's amazing.
Yep, just personified the shit out of the earth we live on.
It's like it's giving Te Fiti from Moana. And I love that movie. It's so great.
Many societies have lost their love and respect for the ground that we live on. We are abusing it.
And and that goes back to my moment of gratitude and thinking about the gratitude of the earth and what it's providing to us as temporary humans on this earth. I brought this up in a previous podcast, probably more than one. We're borrowing from the earth. We are guests here. We are temporary to this earth. There was this research study that reported once, and I saw this also in a video. But if we look at how long humans have existed on this planet, we would only be the final layer of paint on the tip of the Eiffel Tower. The rest of the Eiffel Tower and its layers is Earth without us as humans on it.
How insignificant does that make you feel?
Well, who the fuck do we think we are? Like, we are temporary.
I mean, the ego, man. The ego comes in. Like I said, the ego can be very helpful. It shields us at times when it's appropriate. But when it becomes all that we are led by and we are negating we can call it the feminine, we can call it the receptive nature, we can call it the loving, the nurturing. When we don't prize that in our society, this is what happens.
Yeah. But on the same note, flip side of that, how far we've come as a civilization in such a short period of time. We have a long way to go, I believe.
I mean, it's pretty dope, but yeah, we got a long way to go.
But it's pretty cool what we're capable of doing. And that's saying that without any knowledge of human existence prior to us that may have been more advanced than we are. And we will never really know that I know of. At least not, we don't know yet. But I mean, there are some theories out there with like the pyramids, and the pyramids actually being a part of a civilization of human beings way before and beyond what we even know, that used those to generate power.
Yeah. I mean, there was, when the Spanish saw Chichen Itza, saw the civilization when they first came to that area, they were like in awe of the sophistication, the cleanliness, the industry. I mean, then they, destroyed it, of course, but it's like that theory makes sense because we see that across cultures of like pre-colonizing times. In terms of the indigenous people of the land, they like made amazing things. I don't know how.
Even far beyond that, I think that it's crazy. And I can't remember if it was wind or light or no, it was sound. And the way the pyramids are built were actually built to use sound vibration to generate energy. And it was that's why they had all of those different avenues and outlets throughout the pyramid system. They weren't like trap holes and shit like that. They were funnels that were used to create these vibrations. And like the thought of that being a possibility blows my mind. And then it makes me feel like, why did we like go back so far? Like why are we the shitheads we are?
Yeah. And the way they built them and where they built them, that corresponded astronomically. And to be using astronomy and astrologically, yes.
And to be as the light. To be in the formations that they are.
Yes.
So the connect that vibrates. And to connect the vibrations between pyramids over lengths of distances. I don't know. And it's all theory based, but boy, is that a compelling one.
Yeah.
It's compelling.
Yeah. But it gets me. It gets me like, even just like the temple of the serpent, like the feathered serpent. So Kukulkan's temple in Mexico. I feel like it's just per day, like during the hours of the day, how the sun's hitting it like highlights the serpentine structure along the steps. You can't go up the steps anymore because people are dumb, but like then there's like a serpent mound, and that somehow is like built according to like astrologic or astronomical coordinates. So I believe during a solstice, the sun is in direct line with like the serpent's head, and another solstice that's directly in line with the tail. Like, how did these ancient peoples? That's amazing to me.
And it's not like they did it in one day,
No,
like what the?
No, wayfarers who built boats out of freaking like reeds, not reeds, but
girl,
you know what I'm saying.
This needs to be tabled for a fireside chat because
we do.
Because
we're going on.
Freaking interesting. And there's so much to delve into with it, but
yeah. But anyway,
key point: honor the process of the earth, honor our ancestors who created and respected the earth that we walk on, and that includes the materials. It includes the movement of the earthly processes that create the beauty of the crystals that we come back to. We keep diverging off of crystals because it's related to so many things. This could be like a whole like season in itself. but we're not going to do that to you.
We're just a crystal podcast now.
Yeah. We're not going to do that to ourselves. But, there was a point where I was like done researching crystals for this even where, there's just so much you have to stop yourself. There's so much. But so picking your crystals. Hey.
Ayo.
So choose them intuitively. We kind of talked about that. What's your purpose? Find the ones that speak to you, however that is, whether it's through your clairs or if you don't have those clairvoyant tendencies or understand them yet or even notice them yet, that's okay. Pick what speaks to you, however it speaks to you, or what do you need? Ask. And always cleanse after buying, cleanse after use. But you never know who picked up all the people that picked up that crystal before you bought it, right?
Yeah.
But use your feels, use your purpose, use your intention. Size does not matter when you're starting out. Yeah. Or maybe it's an heirloom. That's that's more powerful to me mentally than buying one from the store. But if you find one outside in nature, even better. But remember to respect the earth. At first, size is not going to matter. But if you're well beyond that and you want to start looking at larger scope crystals, then just being purposeful about which ones you're spending that money on, because it can get pricey. But you can buy those little tumble stones pretty affordably, and they work just as well for most things. So tumbled, polished, natural, rough, raw, that does not matter. That does not matter, but think about your purpose. Kate touched on the different shapes you can pick out too for how that energy is absorbed or reflected from it, but also not huge deal starting out. You may find you just gravitate towards one shape anyway. Yeah, true. When I first started out, I think I was confused. I always thought natural and rugged was better because it was closer to its original form, but that's not the case. That's not the case. Using powerful crystals or stones without knowledge or experience, things can get messy and mixed up though. So if you're not sure what you're doing or why you're using certain crystals and things are feeling off for you, just check in with one of your crystal friends or feel free to email Kate and I through our email that we have on here. We're happy to help. So don't go out and buy moldavite willy-nilly. I know it was like a TikTok trend. Maybe one day I'll share my moldavite story. It will, if you're not ready, it will mess you up. Let's just put it that way. We will, and we can help you. If you don't have any crystal friends, but you're curious, usually if someone has a crystal shop and they're working at it, they know a little bit about crystals. You can always, don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid. So where can you have your crystals? Kate touched on this, at your doorway. You can also keep them at your desk or your work area, near your bed. You can use pocket crystals, keep them in your pocket or stuff them in your hubby's pocket or significant other's pocket before they leave for work without them knowing, to give them a little extra zazz to their day, like in a good way, right? We always want good intentions with our crystals. Why use your crystals? Use them for protection, to energize yourself, to clear the energies around you or things you're absorbing from other people, to ground yourself, to inspire you, to strengthen whatever that feeling or desire you have, whether that be motivation, whether that's to strengthen your ability to communicate clearly, to strengthen your protection, health, those kinds of things. You can use them in meditation, like Kate said. You can use them in crystal massage, like I mentioned earlier. So good. Yeah. And, different practitioners use different types of things. Rose quartz was just one of my examples earlier. But it can vary depending on your needs. And drink lots of water after you use your crystals, especially for longer periods of time. Renourish. Always nourish yourself. Who can use crystals? Literally anybody and everyone can use crystals. When to use them, so you can use them to heal others or heal yourself, to guide others, to guide yourself with intention and purpose. Maybe you're trying to do some more gratitude practice, or maybe you're trying to get through some really intense emotional disturbances based off things that are going on in your life or internally. Use them when you need them. They're there to help you. A common misunderstanding, though, is that crystal healers only use the 7 chakra stones. And this is going back to the chakras, but crystals can be related to a lot of different practices. Chakra is just one of them. But really, it isn't always the case to use just the 7 colors of the chakras. It is cool and it can help balance. I know some practitioners have light therapy that they have the chakras and the designated stone colors. And I have made gifts for friends that are just general chakra alignment stones. But it can vary. And practitioner, if you go in there for a chakra balance and a practitioner uses crystals and it doesn't match the chakra color system, it's for a reason.
Yeah.
Keep that in mind.
And there's multiple stones that correspond to the chakras anyway.
Exactly. So it's, it's what you need is what it's based on. For safekeeping, it's best to cleanse, like I said, before and after use. Some wrap in silk. If you're not really sure, it's always good to pick a silk that's the same color as your stone. Recharge with light, sun, and moon if it is a stone that's not super sensitive to light. We mentioned a few earlier that were. And just a quick note, you should never, ever, ever have to remove your clothing to receive the benefits from crystals. So if you see a practitioner and they ask you to remove clothing, and you are, especially if you're uncomfortable, no, absolutely not. Now, if it's winter time and you have your hat and your scarf and a coat and a sweater and a jacket and everything else,
that's different.
It may be because you're not going to be comfortable during the session.
Yeah, but that's common sense, hopefully.
You would think, but I'm just saying, I just want to preface with all of that. I'm totally about owning your own body. I've been through a lot of experiences in my life, and I feel like it's important to note. So you're not sitting there questioning if this is right or not if you're new to it. It does not need to touch your skin. I'll say that. It does not need to touch your skin. Like
we said, penetration, but just not, you don't have to not have clothes on for that to occur.
Not at all. I mean, with the exception of if you're getting an actual crystal massage. Yeah. But if your ass is naked getting a crystal massage, you better be with your partner when you're doing that, or a partner while you're doing that, and not just a practitioner you're paying, because that is not okay.
Not ethical. Not ethical whatsoever.
No. Yeah. So when using crystals impact your body physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. You can place them on your body, or you can hold them with your body. They don't have to be directly touching you. They can be around you, near you, on the floor in front of you, on a table right next to you, or in front of you as well. Now, working with the crystal practitioner, they may place it in different areas depending on how much or what they feel like is needed. However, if you're practicing on your own or you're new to it, it does not need to be placed onto your body. Crystals and the environment affects the environment around you. We talked about that already. Single versus coupled or multiples. So you can use a single crystal for healing, but you can also couple them up. We talked a couple times about 2 that are a good pair. Be mindful when you're coupling, though, which ones are amplifying, and if they are just fighting each other and not actually providing you any aid because the energies kind of collided and didn't get along, So if you're struggling with which ones to pair with, just really look up the uses of the crystals you have to determine that. And we can see about adding or talking about the use of crystals for other things, but you can use crystals in grids. We'll talk about that another time too. That can get complex. Crystals and pendulums, crystals used for healing with tuning forks, drinking in water bottles we talked about, and oils. It's used in Reiki, chakra healing, meditation, sound therapy. You can make crystal essences for physical symptoms from chakra imbalances. We talked about memories in water. It works the same with crystals in water. Have you ever walked into a place and you just had a vibe from that place? That's what we're talking about. That's a feeling that we're picking up, that that can help you pick crystals and can help you work with the crystals that you have or you pick. And just a quick note too, with crystal essences, that's kind of crystals that have charged water. So it's crystal charged water. You can use them in water bottles. And it can be the foundation to different types of body oils and things like that, similar to flower essence, if anyone does flower essences or other like homeopathic remedies. It affects our physical body more so than flower essence does, but the use of crystals that are make sure you're using crystals that are hard enough and are not disintegrating in that water in some way, because that can be not water soluble, harmful. You must be 100% sure it is not water soluble, and it does not contain any poisonous or metallic qualities as well. We don't want any metallic qualities. Remember, these are formed from rocks, the interactions with that environment, and there are mixtures of minerals in there. That does not mean that all of them are good for you to ingest. So
anything selenite, halite, pyrite, probably not great. Not great to put in water or food or anything else like that. You know what I mean? So...
But real quick, I want to just add a couple of cool fun facts that I have that I didn't get to bring up too much during the podcast. Emeralds, any Gemini babies out there, emerald is our birthstone. So once worn to protect from epilepsy and an antidote for poison in medieval times. That's why kings often wore them in their rings, protecting them from poison.
Interesting.
Yeah, I know. Carnelian, if you like carnelian, often found on the breastplates of Celtic warriors. And it was something to be carried with them into the afterlife for protection. Pretty cool.
Interesting. Yeah.
Lapis lazuli, I don't know if that's how you say it, but that's how I'm saying it, was said to be used in Atlantis to balance one's highest spiritual powers. This was also true for other cultures, such as the Greco-Roman race? Greco-Roman race?
Roman. So the Romans. Yeah.
Their intention being to charm the spirit into matter and manifest gods and goddesses into visible bodies of light. This in turn gifted This in turn gifted the communication with animals, trees, flowers, and crystals such as this one. Lapis lazuli.
I'll have to get some lapis lazuli. Yeah.
Legit on my my next crystal purchase in life. This is what I'm purchasing. And you can get, they're like a blue color.
Yeah, they're blue.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then my last cool fact of the day was selenite. Ancient civilizations conceptualized death as our soul becoming part of the stars in the night sky, affirming souls and energies that never die and are released from the physical body upon death, also known as the seed of an enlightened being and then remains in the soul star. So selenite was used for that process. So that was cool.
Very cool. I love selenite. I have a couple.
I know you do.
It is cleansing. It's cleansing, it's charging, it does it all, and it does it on its own. So it's like a perfect thing to use if you don't want to use the smoke or the moonlight or the sunlight or whatever to cleanse or charge. Selenite does it all. So it's like a triple threat type stone.
So cool.
Well, we appreciate all of you guys sticking around and learning about the amazing properties of crystals. I hope you learned a lot, because I feel like I learned a lot just from researching to deliver the best information. I know Katie did too. We put in a lot
definitely.
Of work.
I didn't know that much about crystals, to be honest. I use them. I use ones I'm familiar with. So to delve outward like that, it was cool. It was cool.
Yeah. And for those of you interested, I'm going to do a little personal plug. I've been doing a series on chakras on my Instagram, and in some of my posts I've included crystals that are great for certain chakras. And then I also have a crystal online course that I'm going to be uploading to Udemy within the next 2 weeks. So if any of you are interested in learning more from there, I'm excited to finally get some of my stuff out there to the public, because I love doing it. But thanks for stopping by and listening. We appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. Yep, these are always longer than we anticipate them being, but we just have so much cool stuff to share.
We will be talking to you on another episode of our podcast. But for now, this is Soul Wild signing off. I'm Kate.
And I'm Katie.
Thanks for stopping by.
See you.